The Boxing Hiltons of Montreal, or more accurately the Fighting Hiltons of Montreal, as their fighting ways were not confined to the ring, were Davey Jr., Alex, Matthew, Stewart, and Jimmy. They constituted one of the most famous brother clans in Canada from the early 1980s, offering fans joyous highs and crushing lows. The family starts with Davey Hilton Sr., born in 1940 in Edmundston, New Brunswick, although some articles refer to him as a Scottish immigrant. He fights as a featherweight, almost always in Canada, and moves around like an Irish traveller, as articles variously say he's from Quebec City, St. John, New Brunswick, Sherbrooke, Quebec, Montreal, and even St. John's, Newfoundland. No newspaper article quotes him during the course of his boxing career, which earns first mention in 1959 as he challenges for the Featherweight Championship of Canada. Hilton wins and holds the title for over 8 years until he's unable to continue in the category after gaining weight. Hilton, later known as Davey Hilton Sr., signs with veteran manager Harry Shepherd, who says, "If Hilton doesn't get anywhere, I'm through with the game. The future for boxing seems to have passed." Hilton fights in South Africa and London in 1961 and 1962, losing on both occasions. Hilton is charged with drunk driving in the USA in 1961, but his legal troubles don't prevent him from fighting in Syracuse and Burlington until they're uncovered in the mid-1980s. Hilton surrenders his featherweight title after holding it longer than any other Canadian fighter. Hilton fights as a middleweight in 1971 in Miami and is not heard from in the ring again. Hilton retires after going 72-0 as an amateur and 136-14 as a pro. He finally gets quoted in an article for the first time in December 1979, only after his sons are starting to gain attention. "The night before I went in against Luis Rodriguez, I got drunk. I had him at one point, but I was too tired. He only decisioned me. Nobody ever put me down for the full count. But I should have been better," Davey Sr. told Tim Burke. The kids. Firstly, Joanne, the only sister, then Davey Jr., born December 1963, Alex, Matthew, Stewart, and then lastly Jimmy. All have the middle name Stewart to honor the Stewart clan they belong to, including Stewart Hilton. Davey Hilton was strict and hit the boys when he deemed fit, including Alex, who was hit the most. 1966, Davey Sr. starts bringing Davey Jr. 3 to a gym next to the Rialto Theatre on Park Avenue. He'd bring the others when they turned 3 as well. They had their first exhibition matches at the age of 5. Each child quit school at the age of 12. 8 October 1977, Davey Jr., 90 pounds, and Matthew Hilton, 80 pounds, star in an Ireland-Canada amateur boxing exhibition at the Verdun Auditorium. Both beat their opponents with ease. Davey Sr. trains his sons, as well as young Eddie Mello, 18, of Toronto, a sensation at the time. Montreal lawyer Morden Cookie Lazarus later describes them. "You'd see them in the gym walking single file behind their father like little ducks, and polite. They were the politest boys you'd ever want to meet." 17 May 1979, Gazette sports columnist Tim Burke pens his first of countless Hilton hype articles, which continue until the brothers start getting into legal troubles. December 1979, Davey Jr. turns 16 years old. He weighs 125 pounds and has a 116-2 record. He venges his 2 losses by beating the 2 guys who bested him. Alex weighs 142 and has an 80-2 record. Matthew, 13, is 61-0 with 39 first-round KOs. Dad says he once tried to separate a fight between Dave and Alex at home and took 15 minutes of effort to stop it. 30 April 1980. Davey Jr., age 16, wins the Intermediate Boxing Championship in Belleville, Ontario. He beats challengers from BC, Ontario, and Saskatchewan and is picked Outstanding Fighter of the tournament. 10 February 1981, Dave Jr. makes pro debut at Paul Sauvé Sports Centre on P9. Matthew, 15, beats an opponent on the undercard. Alex, 16, loses in second round to Frank Nolan, 20. Dave beats a 24-year-old Puerto Rican. "He looked so old with that mustache. Davey looked like a baby beside him," said Davey's mother Jeannie. Tim Burke, columnist cheerleader, suggests that the brothers do their fighting on the road in New England, New York, Florida, and the UK. Pressure would be infinitely less away from his hometown. Victories wouldn't be overblown. Defeats wouldn't be confidence-shattering traumas. 25 August 1982, Matthew, now almost 17, decides to turn pro like older brother Davey and Alex after a 106-0 amateur record with 76 KOs. Tim Burke declares him maybe the best amateur fighter ever turned out in this country. Burke and Davey Sr. urge him to remain amateur for a while longer. Matthew rejects the idea. "I'm sorry, Mr. Burke, I've made up my mind. I want to become a pro like my older brothers. I want my father in my corner." 20 October 1982. A bout at the Paul Sauvé Arena features Dave and Alex and attracts the largest ever crowd at the venue, with 7,300 on hand and a gate of $130,000, with another 1,000 fans turned away the door. The boys' great-grandmother, Ellen White, 79, comes from St. Catharines, Ontario to watch. Montrealers are hooked on boxing again, Tim Burke announces. 25 December 1982. Dave Sr., 42, suffers a heart attack. Gangster Frank Catroni was the first to see him at the hospital and cried like a baby. He was wonderful to us, Davey Sr. said of Frank Catroni. Doctors recommend Davey Sr. not work as cornerman. There's more pressure on me not being there waiting in a hotel room smoking a whole pack of cigarettes. I'm at home there. If I'm going to die, that's the perfect place for me to die, with my boys. 28 January 1983. Stewart, 14, is aiming to win a Golden Gloves title while Jimmy, 11, is also fighting, but brothers warn him to stop the below-the-belt tactics. December 4, 1983. Tim Burke lobbies for the Hiltons to fight at the Forum. Dave Sr. says, the Forum for boxing is the Madison Square Garden of Canada. Your boy fights in the Forum and they hear about it all over the world. He fights in the Paul Sauvé and they say, what the hell is that? Promoter Henry Spitzer says that the Forum wants 20% of the gate or a flat rate, while the Paul Sauvé costs just $5,500. Any match with less than $12,000 at the Forum would lose money. February 15, 1983, Dave Jr. suffers a broken jaw in a fight against Sammy Gervins. He knocks Gervins down 3 times and wins in a unanimous decision. The pain was bad. I'm going to get some crazy glue to keep my left hand up by my chin. April 8, 1983, Davey Jr. becomes father for the first time, naming his daughter Jeannie. The couple name Montreal mobster Frank Catroni godfather. Davey marries Anna Maria Gaddy on 17 April, with Catroni prominent in attendance. November 18, 1983, Hilton brothers train with boxing legend Cus D'Amato in the Catskills, New York. They have the will to win, determination, competitive spirit, and good minds. A kid won't make it if he's stupid. Boxing is 75% mental and emotional and 25% physical, he says. November 24, 1983, large newspaper advertisements for A. Gold and Sons feature photos of the 6 Hilton men wearing sweaters. December 4, 1983, Davey, Alex, and Matthew fight at the Forum, attracting 20,000 in heavy snow. It's declared the largest ever crowd for a sports event at the Forum. Davey's headlining bout against Mario Cousin ends in the 3rd round as both boxers clash heads and the fight is declared a draw. The older brothers win their bouts. Many vicious fights in the stands, one which saw an elderly man kicked into a pulp. Dave Sr. says, I wish I was in the same position as my sons this week. I had the same chances they're getting now, but it wasn't meant to be. They work harder and are more serious than I was. December 7, 1983, Tim Burke in his newspaper column urges Dave Sr. to pace yourself. Your gifted sons need you now more than they ever have. And he urges Dave Jr. to show up for the post-fight press conference the day after. February 1, 1984, Dave Jr. commits to a rematch with Cousin. I'm still ashamed all these people paid so much money and they came away with nothing. This time I'll take him out in 5 or 6. March 25, 1984, Davey Jr. beats Cousin in 29 seconds of the first round at the Forum. Davey becomes welterweight champion. Alex wins his bout on the same card. Gossip columnist Tommy Schnurmacher reports on Davey's movie preferences and hobbies. Earlier this week, I played street hockey with my brothers and friends in Rosemount. It's fun and kills time. June 1984, Alex, Davey, and Matthew break training in the Catskills to perform their training routines in front of 450 inmates at the Archambault Penitentiary north of Montreal. The brothers join the inmates on the lawn for a barbecue. Davey declares, I'd rather spend 3 weeks here than 2 in the Catskills. July 1984, Alex, Davey, and Matthew win bouts. Tim Burke says of Davey Jr., now he's set to take on the world. The 3 brothers were supposed to get introduced to a baseball crowd at the Olympic Stadium in a game being televised across North America, but they and their father are too hungover or drunk to get there on time. January 25, 1985, Stewart Hilton, 16, quietly now has a 72-5 record. Matthew Hilton beats Francisco de Jesus and confesses to weakness. I can't stay away from cakes and donuts. The gooier the better. January 1985, Don King negotiates with Dave Sr. to become exclusive promoter for the Hiltons. Frank Catroni takes part in the negotiations from jail, where he is fighting, eventually successfully, an extradition order. Shufian promoter George Cherry urged them not to sign with King, but Catroni urges them to sign after King pays for his lawyers. King wins out and the Hiltons sign. February 1985, Davey Sr. beats up his his pal, Hunter's Horn co-owner Martin Conroy, who had intervened to prevent Hilton from attacking another bar patron. Conroy breaks a leg in the fall. Davey Sr. claims to quit drinking for good. 15 March 1985. Davey wins a fight in Las Vegas on the undercard of the Larry Holmes and David Bay heavyweight match. June 7, 1985. Davey wins another Las Vegas belt and retains something called the Continental Americans welterweight title. He's 21 and is 23-0-1 as a pro. June 8, 1985. Don King talks of holding a match between Davey and champ Aaron Pryor at the Olympic Stadium or the Forum. August 14, 1985. Davey, now rated 3 in WBA rankings, breaks a leg and finger in a trail bike accident on his brother Stewart's bike behind their home in Rigaud. He expresses growing disillusionment with promoter Don King. Pryor fight is put off as Pryor has become a walking zombie. He notes that the brothers had been making much more money under the management of Henry Spitzer. October 22, 1985. The Hilton family lawyer, Frank Schuffy, is shot dead in his office on Cherrier Street. A drunk Davey Jr. the very next day walks into a Crescent Street bar with a rifle, threatening to kill every Italian in the place. Police find the rifle in Davey's car, but nobody comes forward as witness. Davey is charged with drunk driving. Davey is eventually fined $400 and loses his driver's license for 90 days. He's now 20 pounds overweight. November 1985. Alex enters a bar at the Sheraton Center on Dorchester and fires a gunshot in the lobby. He returns and fires another shot. He turns himself into police the next day. He has 5 other alcohol-related cases before the courts already, including one which he was charged with shooting out windows at a hotel on Metropolitan Boulevard. He gets a relatively lenient 3-month jail sentence for the entire affair in May 1986. November 1985. Alex is in jail. Davey Jr. is drunk, but Matthew is still going strong, winning a 4th round KO a week after Schuffy is killed. Davey Sr. flatters Matthew's efforts. Matt has gone farther than Dave and Alex because he's most dedicated. He made up his mind a long time ago about what he wanted, and that is a world title, and he does nothing that will hurt his chances. The others don't seem to want to pay the price that Matthew does. Only 3,500 show up at the bout, far less than the 8,000 they'd hoped for. Matthew comments, "I have a lot of responsibility now. I've got to do well to make people forget about some of the mistakes Davey and Alex have made. I'm no angel myself, but I can't afford to do anything wrong now. Not only have I got to make people forget about the bad things, but if I do good, it'll be a good example for the boys." March 1986. Matthew knocks out Wilfred Benitez in 4 rounds. Davey still hasn't fought since last June and wants out of contract with Don King. He's still ranked the top 5 WBA welterweight. He notes that his contract called for purses of $20,000 for the first 2 bouts of 1985, followed by $50,000 for each subsequent appearance. Instead, he was offered $5,000 for an undercard bout. Davey vows to wait until January 1987 to fight, as his contract expires at that time. Davey remains mostly drunk and doesn't fight again until 1989. May 9, 1986. Alex, 21, faces a series of minor criminal charges involving shooting guns, brawling, drunk driving, threatening his sister-in-law, and so forth. September 10, 1986. Stewart Hilton, aged 18, dies in a car crash that also kills his girlfriend and mother of his child, Lucie Diot. Diot was in grade 11 at a French language high school. The couple left behind an 8-month-old son. The two had planned to marry within a few weeks. Stewart had no license and was speeding when he crashed a Mazda into a bridge abutment near the family home in Rigaud. Hundreds attended the funeral and the 4 remaining brothers hauled the casket. Don King, who managed Stewart's career, attended. Stewart was 4-0 as a pro and 70-10 as an amateur. January 22, 1988. Davey slated to fight in Atlantic City on the Tyson Holmes undercard. I have a lot of regrets. I've been mixed up for a year and a half or 2. My bike accident, my brother getting killed. I had too many friends in town and I was spending too much time hanging out in discos. June 26, 1987. Matthew wins a 15-round decision over Buster Drayton to take the IBF World Junior Middleweight crown. He is paid $400,000 and keeps in good shape. He wins a title defense in October, but then loses it in November 1988, his first pro loss. He receives $375,000 for his efforts. Promoter Don King loses interest in Matthew, who he feels has lost his discipline. King's employee describes Matthew as uncontrollable and a monster. Matthew moves over to Bob Arum, who also loses interest after Matthew misses several appointments. Matthew had earned $1 million in boxing, but was now 45 pounds over his fighting weight. April 31, 1991, Davey and Matthew Hilton rob a Dunkin' Donuts on St. John's Boulevard in Dollar Desormeaux of $164 while driving a black Ford Taurus driven by a man named Robert Dooley, 46, at 2:30 a.m. They get caught and plead not guilty to charges of armed robbery, wearing a disguise for the purposes of committing a crime, possessing an unregistered .22 caliber rifle, and conspiracy to commit armed robbery. They changed their plea to guilty in April 1992. Dave Sr. says, "You try to do your best, but they're 25 and 27 years old. I can't tell them to go to bed and what time to get up in the morning." I'm shocked. All three brothers were sentenced to 6 months for the holdup. November 1991, Davey, Matthew, and Alex, out on parole for his previous crime, attempt to come back, all fighting on the same card at the Verdun Auditorium, but it attracts little interest. December 1993, Alex charged with attempted murder in Cornwall, Ontario, after a pair of homes in Akwesasne are robbed of $16,000 by 5 armed bandits. Alex and Davey Jr. are arrested at a local hotel. The case drags on until March 1995 when it gets dropped due to lack of evidence. March 29, 1994, Matthew, 28, and Jimmy, 22, are found guilty of assault causing bodily harm following a fight outside a Pointe Claire bar in the summer of 1993. The duo beat 3 tourists from New Brunswick in a parking lot outside Cheers Bar on June 9, 1993. Matthew was on parole at the time for his role in the 1991 robbery. He spent 5 months in jail following his 1993 arrest and was released in November of that year. Davey Hilton, 30, was also charged, but was only located 5 months later in Cornwall, Ontario. Jimmy began the incident by accusing one of the 3 men of being an undercover police officer. Matthew allegedly tossed the first punch. The 3 brothers beat and kicked one of the men until he lost consciousness. June 1997, rising boxer Stéphane Ouellette of Jonquière beats Alex Hilton at the Molson Centre. Alex resigns from the fight in the 8th round due to injury. August 5, 1998, Davey Sr., 63, and Jimmy plead guilty to assaulting a customer in a dispute at a Walmart in La Salle. Jimmy was sentenced to 6 months in prison and Davey Sr. ordered to pay a $1,000 fine. Jimmy was the only brother to not box professionally. November 1998, Davey squares off against Ouellette at the Molson Centre in front of 18,000. Davey knocks Ouellette out in the 12th round. He earns $107,000 from the fight. July 1998, Alex Hilton is tried for 17 charges stemming from sexual assaults and beatings in Bordeaux prison. Alex Hilton was inside serving 6 months for assault and parole violations. Hilton and fellow inmate Peter Lawyer were accused of sexually assaulting Russell Jensen, 23, a convicted child molester, on 3 occasions. Alex did not participate in the offenses, which included fellatio, sodomy, and masturbation. Alex is also charged with 3 others in the beating of Thomas Kitty, who spent 5 weeks in hospital with a ruptured spleen. Alex Hilton is sentenced to 5 years in December. His lawyer, Jeffrey Borrow, blames Hilton's problems on a bad marriage. At 21, when he got married, that's when the problem started. He wasn't able to deal with it. Judge Pierre Brassard described Hilton as vicious and heartless, who had failed to take advantage of clemency from previous judges. May 1999, Davey has a rematch against Ouellette and wins in a 3rd round knockout. September 2000, the two battle for a 3rd time and Ouellette wins a 10-round decision. Earlier in the day, authorities had served Davey with legal documents concerning impending charges against him. December 15, 2000, Davey Jr., now 37, beats Dingaan Thobel of South Africa in a split decision at the Molson Centre, with many thinking that Hilton benefited from generous local judges. Hilton is awarded the WBA Super Middleweight Championship, making him the 2nd world champion in the family. December 14, 2001, Davey Jr. on trial for sexual assault against minors. His brother Jimmy rambles on in a contradictory way that did little to help Davey's case. September 1, 2004, Davey attempts to block the publication of a book co-authored by his 2 daughters, Jeannie and Anne-Marie, detailing his sexual molestation crime. June 19, 2006, Davey Hilton is released from La Macasa prison after serving 2/3 of a 7-year sentence for sexual assault. December 2004, Alex Hilton, now 40, the only remaining active boxer in the family, prepares to face opponent Adam Green at the Bell Centre. Alex's coach for 10 years, Ron DiCecco, weighs 525 pounds and later got down to 250 pounds. September 30, 2010, Davey Jr. is arrested for the 5th time in 3 years on charges of violence against his ex, Joanna Colavecchio. His brother Jimmy is also charged with threatening the woman. The famous Fighting Hiltons can be seen as reminiscent of 2 other celebrity Canadian clans. In their early years, they were like the Dion quintuplets who delighted the world with their youth and charm, and then they turned out to be like the Dubois brothers, an intimidating group of working-class criminals. The Hiltons, of course, serve as a cautionary tale against alcohol and brain trauma, but should also be understood through the lens of old-time UK traveller culture. Nomads who distrusted education and embraced fisticuffs, often with unpredictable results.